Oh, am I so excited? I was so nervous about this, but I'm very excited about these now. Oh, that's not the angle I meant to shoot. So today, I started my second book, which is The Vanquished Queen, and this one is by, oh, I'm dropping it everywhere. Hi everybody, my name is Kelsey, and we're about to get very, very nerdy with a themed reading vlog. So I've been toying with this idea for a few months now, and I decided to do it. So today we are going to be starting an adventure, a reading adventure with you guys, where I go to the bookstore and pick out books based on the covers, don't know anything about them, and read them and see if I like them, see if my tastes in covers correlates with my tastes in reading. So I recently went to the Barnes & Noble. I haven't been in a very long time, so I use this kind of as like an excuse to go back, and I did take some footage and I got some things, so I'm going to show you the adventure of picking them out, and then we'll come back and talk about what we're going to be reading. So, I don't know really anything about the books that I picked, so we're going to learn about them together. So my plan, I had this grand plan going in, and the grand plan was to come out with 3 books. Well, surprise, surprise, I came out with 4. So, I decided to add a 4th one because it's the first one I saw. It's a manga, so it's going to be a little bit easier to read, and also I was drawn in by the title, not the cover. So it's going to be like a 3.5, so I decided to count it as like an extra book just in case, and that is Catch These Hands, and this is by Murata. This is the first volume, so I'm just going to go ahead and read the back of all of these because we're going to learn about them together. Back in the day, oh dear, names, okay. Back in the day, Takeby was a tough-as-nails delinquent who could throw hands with anyone, but right when she finally decides to leave her old ways behind, Takeby has a surprise reunion with her old rival, the bloody cardigan Soramori. After all these years, she still wants a piece of Takeby, but not in the way anyone expected. Her proposal: if Soramori can beat Takeby in a fight, they have to start dating. the name was just too ridiculous not to leave it. So like this could turn out really well. It looks like a female-female romance, and I feel like, I mean, I think they're getting better, but like I don't see a whole lot of same-sex relationships in manga. I found my fair share of them, but the name sounded funny. I'm not sure I would have picked this up based on the synopsis, but I would have been interested in it and added it to my TBR for sure. So this is probably the one that we're going to maybe get to first. We'll see. I haven't decided. So there's that one. And then the second one I saw is The Siren of Sussex, and this is by Mimi Matthews. And this looks like it's part of a series. I did just check, and it is the first in the series before we started recording here. So it's Bells of London, that's the series. And I didn't do this with the first one, but I decided to let's guess what these are all about. I would have guessed this was a relationship book, so I'm not too far off. This one feels like a historical romance, maybe, of sorts. It has this beautiful illustrated cover, which you guys know I'm a fan of illustrated covers. So let's see what this one's about. Evelyn Maltravers understands exactly how little she's worth on the marriage mart. As an incurable blue stocking from a family tumbling swiftly towards ruin, she knows she'll never make a match in the ballroom. Her only hope is to distinguish herself by making the biggest splash in the one sphere where she excels, on horseback. In haute contour? But to truly capture London's attention, she'll need a habit maker who's not afraid to take risks with his designs and with his heart. Ahmed Malik has always had a talent for making women feel beautiful, inching his way towards recognition as a tailor despite the prejudices against his Indian heritage, by designing riding habits for Rotten Row's infamous pretty horsebreakers. I cannot get through this sentence. Horsebreakers. But no one compares to Evelyn. Her unbridled spirit enchants him, awakening a depth of feeling he never thought possible. But pushing boundaries comes at a cost, and not everyone is pleased to welcome Evelyn and Ahmed into the fashionable society. With obstacles spanning between them, the indomitable pair must decide which hurdles they can jump and what matters most, making their mark or following their hearts. Oh, how fun! So yes, historical romance for sure. I should have guessed it was about horse riding based on the cover. Loving the diversity. You don't see that a whole lot in historical romances. Ooh, I want to get to this one really soon. So that's the second one I picked up. The next one I was drawn to because of the cover, but I feel like the title may kind of give away a little bit of the story, but that one is The Murder of Mr Wickham, and this is by Claudia Gray. So yes, the illustrated cover drew me in. I was in the mystery section, and I said, ooh, that looks like a fun cover. I wonder what that's about. And I read the title, and I was like, well, I was already interested because of the cover. So let's learn about this together, shall we? The happily married Mr. Knightley and Emma are throwing a house party, bringing together distant relatives and new acquaintances. Characters beloved by Jane Austen fans. Definitely not invited is Mr. Wickham, whose latest financial scheme has netted him an even broader array of enemies. As tempers flare and secrets are revealed, it's clear that everyone would be happier if Wickham got his comeuppance. Yet they're all shocked when Wickham turns up murdered, except of course the killer hidden in their midst. Nearly everyone at the house party is a suspect, so it falls to the two youngest guests to solve the mystery. Juliet Tilney, the smart and resourceful daughter of Catherine and Henry, they're from Northanger Abbey, and let's see, who's eager for adventure beyond Northanger. Oh, I just finished the sentence. And Jonathan Darcy, the Darcy's oldest son, whose adherence to propriety makes his father seem almost relaxed. In a tantalizing fusion of Jane Austen and Agatha Christie, the unlikely pair must put aside their own poor first impressions and uncover the guilty party before an innocent person is sentenced to hang. I need that. Oh my gosh, that sounds so good. Ah! I love that it's not even like she took all these characters from all these different Jane Austen novels. Because like Knightley and Emma are from Emma. So there's already, just on the back of this, 3 different Jane Austen books. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And the last one is probably the most beautiful cover out of all of these. And this one is The Vanished Queen. I definitely am giving a fantasy vibe. I think I did pick this up from the fantasy section, though I'm not entirely sure. I realized I was in the fantasy section. I'm not sure if this is adult or YA, and I do believe I looked this up on Goodreads, and I feel like it wasn't part of a series. I looked up some of the books to make sure they weren't like part of a series, like 2 or 3 in a series, and this one I think was a standalone. So let's learn about this together. It says, long ago, Queen Marantha vanished. King Carolgy claimed she was assassinated by a neighboring ruler, but her people knew the truth. The king had disappeared her himself. Disappeared is in all caps. Interesting. Now the queen's disappearance is barely a memory, merely one among many horrors the king's reign has wrought. But when Anza, a young student impassioned by her father's unjust execution, finds the missing queen's diary, she is inspired by Marantha's words and joins a resistance group to overthrow the king. Prince Asvar is the second son of the wrathful king Coralgy. Trapped under Coralgy's thumb and desperate for a way out, a chance meeting with Anza gives Asvar the opportunity to join the resistance. Together they might have the leverage to move against the king, but if they fail, their deaths could mean a total loss of freedom for generations to follow. In this dangerous game of court politics, one misstep could lead to the fate worse than death. That sounds fun. I love this cover. I just think it's so pretty. And I'm skimming through to see if we have like multimedia aspects where we see parts of the diary. Maybe, I'm not 100% sure. But, ooh, the chapter heads are very pretty as well. Look at that. How fun. This sounds fantastic. I love political and court intrigue, so I'm very excited about that. So yeah, I would have to say right now, I think I'm most excited about Murder of Mr Wickham. I feel like that's no surprise. And then oddly, this is the one that I'm second most excited about. But based on the back of them, I think I'll enjoy all of them. This one, we'll see. I could see myself going either way with this one, but I think all of the like books, not the manga, I will enjoy based on the summary. Like, I'm interested in them. Like, these are books that I would have been drawn in by the cover and then would have read the back and been interested in enough to pick up at some point, for sure. So, ooh, I don't know what we're going to start with, so I'll come back to you when I've started one of these and give you guys my thoughts, but let's see if the covers live up to the stories. Oh, am I so excited? I was so nervous about this, but I'm very excited about these now. Hello! So, it's been a few days, and I've made some decent progress in the Siren of Sussex, so I thought I'd give you a little bit of an update. I have not moved my bookmark yet. Hold on one second. Okay, now that I've sat here for a while trying to remember where I was, I am somewhere in the middle of chapter 19. I was listening to it in the car on the way home, so I haven't actually logged it yet, but I think I'm a little, yeah, that puts me a little over halfway. I know it doesn't really look like it, but I think it is just a little over. And I'm really enjoying this. So basically, this follows our main character, Evelyn, and she is the second of, oh no, 6 sisters or 6 girls, and she doesn't have either a living parent anymore, and she lives with her aunt. And her older sister was supposed to like make, you know, the catch of the season and help out their family, and of course that didn't happen. There was some scandal with her sister, so now it's her turn. So she has come to London. She's 23, which at the time is like, oh my gosh, how can you, like, it's her first season, and everyone's like, this is crazy, how could it be your first season and you're 23? And she knows that she's like, they call her Wallflower Blue Stocking, you know, the person who just kind of like hides on the side of the ballroom. She wears glasses, and so everyone looks at her a little funky because of that, and like all of this stuff. She's bookish, you know, but she's very good at riding her stallion. And so, and her stallion specifically is a Spanish bred stallion, so it's significantly more temperamental than your regular one. So she's kind of gone out of her way to find this guy who makes the writing habits for this bunch of like group of women. They're basically a bunch of courtesans who are like thought of as to be like dressed really, really well. And so she's like, oh, he made some habits for them. So she goes to the store and finds out that there's this guy named Ahmed Malik who has been making all of everything. And they strike up this friendship. He is Indian, and he, of course, because of that, there's a lot of stereotypes that come along with that. A lot of people in English society look at him very unforgivingly, and so there's a lot happening there's a lot of representation and diversity happening with just him and his cousin, because like his cousin lives with him, so it's the two of them, and she like helps him out with like, you know, sewing and stuff like that. So basically they strike up a deal where he's making habits for her, and then he ends up making her entire wardrobe, and she's kind of like his muse. He's never felt this inspired by anyone before. And then of course feelings. What I love about this is that it's giving me all of the slow burn romance that I want from a historical romance. It's giving me all of that, but it's very, very low on smut. So if you are someone who likes, maybe, I mean, granted, I'm only halfway through, so like we'll see, but like if you want a book that hints at that kind of thing, because like obviously he is taking her measurements and everything, so like she is often basically in her underwear in front of him, and so there's always this like, oh, he brushed my hip, he brushed this thing, so like there's hints at it, and he talks about how interested he is in her, and like they're both basically trying to quash these feelings because of like social and class difference and all of that stuff. And so she's trying to find a husband because she's got 4 younger sisters, and so she needs to make a match because her aunt is basically running out of money. And so that's the whole thing, is this story. I mean, it's much more than that. Lots of things happen. The two of them, I love their relationship and how it grows and how they care so much for each other. I'm very, very much enjoying this. I did find out this is the first in a series though, and I looked up the second one, which comes out I think later this year. There is a group of girls that she meets in here, 3 others specifically, who are all thought of like wallflowers and people like that. And the next book follows one of them. So I think this series is going to be a series of 4 that follows each of these ladies. I was wondering if it was going to be like her and her siblings, but I like this one better. So like I already know who the second one's going to be about, and I love learning about her. There's some really good representation here as well so far, because like not only just like diversity, which you don't usually see in historical romances, but also with like mental health and stuff, because one of these other girls that she's become friends with, her name is Julia. She suffers from what I would assume, based on my very limited experience of my husband, is social anxiety. Because she basically shuts down. She basically has like panic attacks when men kind of come to her and try to strike up conversations. She kind of freaks out. And so that's why I think it's specifically social anxiety, but like just she has really bad anxiety and representation of that, and like what I would assume is the beginning of a panic attack so far in this book, that happened at a ball. Julie is the one who's going to be in the second book, so I'm very interested to see how her story is going to play out too. I have loved this book. I think it's very fun. I think it's, if you're going in wanting like what you would expect from like a historical romance in the sense of like lots of smutty scenes and lots of like that kind of stuff, where I'm at right now, that's not what's happening, but it's giving me all of the rom-com historical vibes that like I get from movies like Pride and Prejudice, like the you know, modernized adaptations of things like that, where everything is very proper, but there's lots of feelings and pining, and I love all of that. So so far this is looking to be either a 4 or a 5 star. I think right now, if I had to rate it, I don't know why I've gotten in this habit of saying that, like picking a rating halfway through the book. If I had to rate it right now, I would say 4 stars. I think I'm really enjoying it, but like it's not the most amazing historical romance I've read in this, like in the same vein, but it's still very, very good, and I'm still absolutely adoring the representation in all different aspects in this book. I don't see a happy ending. Like, I don't know how a happy ending could happen, so I'm very curious, because I mean, that's what's gonna have to happen, right? Like they're gonna have to have a happy ending somehow, but I don't know how it's gonna happen. So I'm very interested in this. I'm hoping to finish this in the next couple of days or so. I have the audiobook from my library, and it's due in like 3 days, so I'm hoping to get through this before it goes back. But so far so good. I am very much enjoying it. It's a dual narration, even though like this is all in 3rd person. It's like that 3rd person, I can't remember what it's called, but like where you're still in that person's head. It's 3rd person, but you're in that person's head. And so you're switching back and forth from like the perspectives of Ahmed and Evelyn. And so we've got 2 narrators in the audiobook, which I think that's very well done in my opinion. But yeah, so far so good. This was the first one I picked up. It was a good one to start with. I was thinking about starting with the manga, but I decided to go with this one. and I'm very happy with my choice. That's my update so far. So far, so good. I expect to finish this in the next couple of days. I'm very much enjoying it. These illustrated covers, let me tell you, they really do it. I love the illustrated covers, and they've never steered me wrong yet. So I'm very excited to finish this. So I'll probably come back to you when I have finished this. So far, so good. Moral of the story is so far, so good. Hello! So, I have updates for you guys. I have been able to finish The Siren of Sussex by Mimi Matthews, and I gave it 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this. I think this is perfect for people who like that historical romance vibe, but maybe don't like all of the smut that you usually get with historical romances, or want something a little bit heavier, because this has got all the perfect feelings and perfectness that is the historical romance, but it gives a lot more to the plot. Specifically because we do follow Evelyn and Ahmed is Indian, half English, and so he doesn't really fit anywhere, but because he doesn't look like a stereotypical Englishman, people look at him funny, and so there's a lot of prejudice in this book when it comes to him, and that puts a damper and kind of like a strain on their relationship, and him really wanting to put her through that, because if they get together, then like she would have a hard life for that. But I loved seeing her character and how she really comes into her own and like stands up for what she wants and really doesn't let the world tell her what to do, so she just kind of figures it out on her own, and I really enjoyed that. There's something that like I didn't quite, and I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but there's something that I couldn't quite give it the full 5 stars, but I definitely want to read the second one, which comes out later this year, and there's at least one more planned beyond that. I don't know, I just found it really interesting because like the author really took history and made it like this as historically accurate as you can. She's like tweaked some of the like dates around, but this takes place during Queen Victoria's reign, right after Prince Albert dies. There's a like mass surgence in mystics, and not mystics, but like the seances and spiritualists and people like that. So that plays a big role in this, as well as the relations between England and India and Indians in the Victorian England, and the fashion, because we do follow a guy who writes or like creates these fashion pieces, and so it was really interesting seeing his look at like how he's creating these things for these women and how perfectly they fit. So I really enjoyed it. I definitely would have, like, after reading the synopsis, it sounded like something that I would like. This cover definitely drew me in because I like those not cartoon, but those illustrated covers, especially when it comes to historical romance. I've got like a whole section like right here that's just all historical romance, historical fiction, illustrated covers, and then also like a bunch of contemporary as well. So like I like all of this, and I just like, there's just a lot about this book. It had a lot of complexity, which I really appreciated. There were some things that were crazy realistic, and then there were some things that weren't as realistic, but you kind of needed to get the plot going. But most of this, I felt like this could have actually happened during this time. So I really enjoyed just generally my time reading this. So yes, 4.5 stars. This one was a success. So today I started my second book for this fun experiment, and that was The Vanished Queen, and this one is by Lisbeth Campbell. I have made it 165-ish pages in this book, according to Goodreads. That's about 33% of the way. I'm not gonna lie, I really want to DNF this book. It is not doing it for me. I am not interested at all. This is set in a world where the king is like ridiculously evil and like will kill you even if you look at him wrong, like including his own sons. Like he doesn't care about anybody. And so the queen has like kind of disappeared. She's vanished, and everyone's like, well, he definitely killed her. So it follows a girl named Anza, who is part of the rebellion, and this guy named Prince Asvar. So not the heir to the king, but I think his second oldest son. And so it follows the two of them, and right now where I'm at, they haven't really met. I mean, they have, but like their storylines haven't collided yet. And so she is basically training to be a better rebel at this point. Her father was a warrior in the army, or a soldier for the king, and so he taught her a lot of what he knew, so she became a relatively good archer because of that. And so the rebellion is like, oh, we could use that, and so they're training her to be even better. And then you've got the prince, who is like really against his father, because like his father is just so bad, and they're just kind of waiting for him to die, basically, because they want his heir to take over because he'll do so much better. But he's like, I still want to do little things, so he's like finding little small like rebellious things that he calls justice to the place. And then in between chapters you do have these sections that are from the queen's perspective, Marantha. And at the beginning of the book, our main character Anza, she finds a diary, I think, that belonged to the queen, but like we don't really like, besides like her finding it in the prologue, it's not really mentioned again. But I'm assuming that these in between chapters are from, because they're all from her perspective, so I'm assuming that that's the diary that she found, and those are horrific. Like, seeing how just utterly awful this guy is, it's just giving me so much pause. So like, part of me wants to give it another chance, because like I haven't made it very far in it, but also like I do not care. I have no positive thoughts towards this book. Nothing is interesting right now. I think it would be, there's potential for it to be interesting, but like I have no interest in what's happening. So we'll see. I may try to give it a little bit more time just to see if it gets better, which is so unfortunate because you see how beautiful this cover is. I love it so much. But I don't know, there's just something that's really just, I'm bored. I'm really bored. And so I think I might have to DNF it. Because like I don't care. I just don't care. So, yes, I think I've, while sitting here, officially decided to let this one go, which is unfortunate because, again, beautiful cover. But I don't know. I'm not sure anything about the back would have really drawn me in except for the diary aspect of it. That did sound interesting, but we're not really seeing any of that. And I don't know. I just, also, they keep throwing names at you, and I don't know who anybody is. Like, all of a sudden, we're talking to someone and I'm thinking it's possibly an ex-boyfriend, and then it all of a sudden is just like a friend, and then also another person shows up, and then when we're in the prince's head, him and his brother just kind of like reference people by name, like other soldiers and people that are in the kind of like world that they're in, but like I don't know who they are. We've not met them yet. Most of them, some of them we have, but most of them we haven't met yet. So like, why do they have names? Like, also, why are you giving us these names? It's very confusing. Okay, I think we're gonna say goodbye. But we're going to, I think, pick up The Murder of Mr. Wickham next by Claudia Gray. I expect to love this one because not only do we have beautiful illustrated cover, but it's based on Jane Austen. I mean, what could be better? So I will start this. Ooh, there's a fun author's note at the beginning. I will start this tonight, maybe tomorrow, and I think I'm really gonna enjoy this. I do. I think there's a lot to recommend with this one. This one might be cheating just the tiniest bit because like I feel like the title gives away what it was about, but I don't know. The cover did draw me in. So I'm very excited about this one. I feel so much better now that I've decided to not read the other one. So I will come back to you when I've started this one with thoughts. I don't think I'll finish it, but when I have thoughts, I'll let you know. Hello, I have updates for you, final thoughts, if you will, because I have finished 2 things since I talked to you last. So, I started and finished Catch These Hands, the first volume of this. I read this over the course of like a few days here and there. It wasn't anything that like, usually I can finish mangas in one sitting because I'm very interested in them. That wasn't the case with this one. I was fine taking my time. I felt like I was intrigued, but like I didn't need to keep reading. I did look, I think there's only 4 volumes of this, so I don't think my library has them. So like, maybe I'll continue to invest in them, maybe not. I don't really know at this point. But it was okay. I gave it 4 stars. It didn't have anything particularly amazing that happened during it. We follow our two main characters, Take Bay and Sora Mori. And Take Bay is basically like at the beginning of this, she's come to the realization that like all of her friends are married and having kids and kind of moving on, and she's still stuck dressing. They call it like a delinquent, but she keeps dressing kind of like she did when she was in high school, or like this version of high school, a teenager. And so she decides that she's going to get a new wardrobe. She's going to change her life. So she goes to a store to get a new wardrobe, and the lady there that's helping her out is Sora Mori, who was a friend slash rival when they were in high school, and all they did is like fight basically. And so they strike up a conversation. They remember who they are, or like, you know, they kind of have that conversation of like, oh, it's you. And so Sora Mori basically says, if you fight me and I win, you have to go out with me. And so like they do, kind of. I mean, basically it's like one punch and then like they're done. And so she ends up going out with, Take Bay ends up going out with her. And it's them and like their continual dates and stuff, and like them maybe starting a relationship, kind of, sort of. And there's nothing really particularly exciting about it. They go hang out a bunch. You see a lot of like layers on some of these characters being taken away. Would I continue the series? Probably. I'm not sure the back would have told me to pick it up right away. The cover is okay. The title's really what drew me in, and so I would be interested in it. I'm not sure I would have read it right away, but I would have been interested in it. Yeah, we'll see. I don't have any desire to keep a hold of it, so we'll see if I can find the rest of the series online somewhere. I've seen the first couple of volumes in a store, but I haven't seen anything beyond that, so I'm not sure if it's still coming out, if it's only got the first couple of volumes, or the ones that are translated. I don't really know, but I did enjoy it. It sounds like I didn't enjoy it, but I did actually really enjoy it. It was just kind of generally okay. I feel like I don't need to hold on to it. I feel like my life wasn't changed dramatically because of this, but I did like the normalcy of the female-female relationship in here. Like, no one batted an eye at that, which you don't, I mean, you do and you don't. See, there's a lot of jokes in mangas that I've noticed about, like, oh, you're dating that guy if you're a guy. And so like there's a lot of jokes like that, but so I'm not sure culturally where that lies, but it was nice to see just kind of the normalcy of it. So definitely did enjoy this one. And I picked up and finished The Murder of Mr Wickham by Claudia Gray. I ended up giving this one, oh, I still have my bookmark in it. I ended up giving this one like 4.5 stars, I think is what it ended up being. And the one thing I will say about this is when I was first reading it, I was like, oh, anyone could read this, because there's a lot of side characters that are brought up from the respective Jane Austen books. Every single Jane Austen book is represented in here in some way. And so mostly it's all of the main couples are invited to the Knightleys, which are the main couple from Emma. So like all the main couples are invited to the Knightleys for like a dinner party, except for the couple from Northanger Abbey. They couldn't make it, but their daughter is one of the ones that's invited. And so she comes, and then Wickham shows up, and he has connections to all these different people, not just the Darcys, but like every couple in here I think has a connection to him in some way. And so it's basically his murder and trying to figure out what that is. I liked this book, but it's not what I expected. So like this book, if you're going in for like the murder mystery aspects of it, it's like, I'd say 30%, 25 to 30% of this book is the actual murder investigation. A lot of this is taking those main couples that we've come to love from the Jane Austen novels and kind of throwing a twist in their happily ever after and seeing how they cope with it, or seeing the kind of what next, you know, like they've had their happily ever after, it can't stay happy forever. What could realistically happen between these two couples, or between these two in the couple? And so a lot of it is that character conflict, if you will. Does the murder is the investigation of the murder happening throughout the whole thing? Yes, but there's no like clues that like are important until relatively close to the end. So if you're going in wanting a murder, that's not this book. If you are a huge Jane Austen fan, I think you would enjoy this, because I liked seeing these couples that we've come to love, the kind of like what next. Like some of them feel like very unrealistic couples. So could they, like, what could realistically happen? Like their personalities are so different or whatever. So they're going to have conflicts in the future. What could those be? And I liked that. So I think this is good for Jane Austen fans. I don't think this is good for murder mystery fans. Every side character that's brought up throughout this book from like the respective novels is introduced again with enough detail that if you haven't read any of the Jane Austen novels, that they would make sense to you, and why they're being thought about would make sense to you, and kind of like a sum of their role from the novel. But there's a lot of characters. I mean, the party itself is 10, 12 people, I think, and this is constantly switching points of view. It's all third person, but it's constantly in different people's heads, and there are a lot of like these little breaks between the pages, so you have to pay attention to those. Otherwise, you are all over the place and you can't remember whose head you're in, because everyone kind of sounds the same. There's not really any writing that's different for one person or the other, because again, third person. So I still really enjoyed this. I still liked what this gave me. My only issue with this is that I was expecting this grand murder mystery, and it really wasn't that. It was like, let's make this about a mystery, but let's not focus on the mystery. Oh, by the way, let's talk about the murder at the very, very end. I forgot about that. Let's wrap that up. And that's kind of what it felt like, which is why I got 4 instead of 5 stars. Again, loved all the character parts of this book and seeing all those hints to characters that we've come to love, as well as like the writing in this book is relatively good, because like there are characters that show up from Emma's story specifically that drive me crazy, and they're like the annoying characters that you just don't want to be there, and you still have those feelings, and like she is really good at capturing those feelings, and like some of the characters are really ridiculous, and so she's good at capturing the ridiculousness of certain characters. But that would be like, if only people who love Jane Austen would really like have those almost nostalgia feelings. So really good. It wasn't really a mystery, which is what I was expecting. I mean, it is, but it isn't. I don't really know how to explain it. So those are kind of my thoughts on those. Overall, relatively good. What have I learned? I have learned that illustrated covers definitely work for me. I've learned that funny titles are actually worth my time. And I've learned that beautiful fantasy novels are decent, but like maybe not always for me. Do I want to DNF this, or do I want to like unhaul this immediately? No, I might want to give it a chance at a later date. I might like put it off to the side and come back to it. I was kind of in a burnout slump, which I still kind of am, while I was reading this one primarily. So like the fact that I wasn't in the mood for this probably hindered my enjoyment of this. So while this is beautiful, I definitely need the synopsis of these books, because I think my tastes in covers correlate pretty well with my tastes in the story itself, but not always. So yeah, that's kind of my takeaway. 3 out of the 4 of these books were great. All of these got 4 or 4.5 stars, except for The Vanished Queen, which of course I DNF'd. So like, would it have gotten 3 stars? I don't know, because I don't rate my DNFs, but this was a fun experiment. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you'd like to see something like this again. I love covers. I think covers are so beautiful, and I'm not good at buying cover buys. I usually read the back of the book before I buy it, because covers can be misleading. But I think this was a fun experiment, and I think 3 out of the 4 books being great, I would count that as a success. So please let me know if you are a cover buy person yourself, if you would do something like this. What kinds of things do you gravitate towards on covers? Have you read any of the books that I talked about today? Let me know all of your thoughts. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe it down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links, so don't forget to check all of that out. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!